So if you're listening to the show, you might know that I have been going through shit lately. And this really made me think that I would love to offer my group program, the Urban Cleanse group program. But this time I am part of the group. I would like to go back to losing the weight that I gained these past couple of years. And I would like to feel better in my own skin. And I know a lot of you do too. And I do know that my program does work if I only did it myself. So if you'd like to join, please go on www.Organilicious.ch, click on the Urban Cleanse button and join us. It'll be loads of fun. We'll do it together. I will be your support, your knowledge, as well as your team member. I'm looking forward to see you there. Thanks a lot.
Hello, my name is Elia Fuster Rius. I am the owner and the olive oil sommelier in l'Atelier de Saison. Today, I am the guest on this episode of So Freaking Healthy, and we're going to talk about olive oil and its health benefits, how to choose the best olive oil, and also we're going to talk about the myth of can we really cook with olive oil.
Hi, Elia. Welcome to the podcast. It's nice to meet you.
Thanks for inviting me to the Freaking Healthy podcast. I'm very happy being here. And I'm looking forward.
Great. So we invited you today because Danna is a faithful and loyal customer of your olive oil business. And the So Freaking Healthy podcast, we don't really restrict ourselves on what we talk about because everything is health related in one sense or another. And I think this is the first food type topic that we've had on the show. So we're excited to talk about olive oil. And maybe we could just start, maybe you could just introduce yourself a little bit in terms of, who you are, where you're coming from. And I think most importantly is like, how did you get started in the olive oil business?
Okay. So I was born in Barcelona. And my family was having some land, some kilometers away from Barcelona city center, that's where I grew up. And when I remember, one of my first memories is helping my father picking up the olives to bring to the mill. And he was telling me, don't pick them up from the floor. When you're a kid, you don't know anything. But this is one of the things that I was remembering. And, I did grow up in a country where olive oil is everywhere. You hit your head and the grandma rubs you with olive oil, or if the door makes some noise, you use olive oil. It's olive oil everywhere. My work when I was living in Barcelona, I was international transport. I was making projects all around the world. But I fell in love with a Swiss guy, and then we moved to Zurich. And, my first cultural shock was to go to the supermarket and to see that bottles of olive oil were like this. And then, stupid me, I thought, okay, I'm going to go to the aisle where there are the big bottles. But there was pasta. There were only bottles, and I thought, at that moment, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to die. How am I going to survive in this country where bottles are ridiculously so small, and the price, it's, how can I pay that? Really, it was like, okay, I'm dying now, that's it. And then it took me some time to start all the business. I'm someone that looks always for very good quality in the products, in everything I eat. So I always go to the farm for the best meat or the best eggs or everything. And olive oil, I never found something that was really my standards. It was really poor quality olive oil. And as my career was with making international transport projects, I said, well, if I bring one pallet, it will be okay. I can do that. I can do that. So, and you know, my neighbors, when we moved here in the French-speaking part of Switzerland, my neighbors were, do you have some oil? No, just have it for me. If I give it to you, I don't have any more. So we just, you know, I just started to say, okay, here, there's a gap I need to fill. So I started importing olive oil, and I started just 1 week before the confinement. So I thought, okay, I'm going to make soap out of it, because nobody's going to buy anything. But as we were all at home and we were all cooking and we were all enjoying meals with the family, I started selling and selling and selling olive oil. I started well, being connected with many people like Danna. We just met, I think, at that moment, and then I got a lot of questions about people about olive oil from my clients, and I found that it was important to get so a bit more knowledge. So I got certified as an olive oil sommelier, which means that I'm trained to taste olive oils, to define if they are good or not, they have a defect or well, to find out these tricky things. And I'm also trained to give a lot of information that my clients ask for. So this is how I arrived here.
Oh, that's such a nice story. I think that that's something we've heard before, is really the passion to make a quality product because you just can't find what you're looking for. And it's cool because then, you know, I think if people know it's quality, then they're willing to pay a little bit more. And I think from my point of view, price has always been very elusive with olive oil. Because I wonder, you know, of course, we all three live in Switzerland, so we all know that grocery store prices in Switzerland are on average higher than in our neighboring countries of Italy, France, and Germany.
I mean, and sorry, Megan, when we talk about higher, they're like 40% higher or more, which is insanity.
But it still doesn't explain, even also in the US, and maybe this is kind of the first place we'll go, is kind of about pricing and differentiations between olive oil. Because right now I see, like you said, so number one, I see olive oil in different international sections of the grocery store. So I see olive oil in the Turkish section, I see olive oil in the Italian section, right? And I see olive oil in like the cooking section. And I've seen this kind of light olive oil, which it claims can go up to higher temperatures. And I've also bought olive oil in Italy directly from the farm, you know, and it's so inexpensive and it's so good. And I'm wondering where is this disconnect from these small farmers producing in Italy, in Greece, and in Spain? I think these are the three big primarily what I've seen in the grocery store. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the quality and in the grocery store, because that's where most people are going to see their olive oil. I think not a lot of people buy their olive oil online in general. When they see a bottle that's 2 or 3 times more expensive than another bottle, what is going on, the difference between these two products?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to say just about that. Look, when I started this, I had to set my prices, and that was the most difficult part I ever did in my business, because I've seen that in Switzerland, prices for olive oil, as you said, they're ridiculous. It's over expensive. So my goal was to bring a very good quality olive oil, but it was also to keep very reasonable prices. And I decided that for the larger bottles, like the 10 liters and the 5 liters, I would not have a pro price and a retailer price, just because I wanted families that needed big quantities of olive oil to have access at a good price, like the price that the restaurants would pay for it. So the restaurants that buy oil from me, They pay the same price as you can pay, exactly the same. I don't make any difference with the prices. That was for me the base where I wanted, because I sell olive oil and but I like to sleep well at night, and I cannot sell my olive oil more expensive to my neighbor than to a restaurant. This is just me. So this is what I decided. Then you want to know about the margin that they take. It's huge. The companies, they take a huge margin. I can keep margin very small. Why? Because it's me. It's only me. I am the CEO and the cleaning lady. So I do everything. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. But the thing is that in Switzerland, well, you have to import all these products from southern countries in Europe, and then transport prices are very expensive. Now they are even more expensive. Then also there are all the duties and taxes at customs that are an important part of the price of the olive oil. And then there's also something, I don't know if you know, that exists here in Switzerland. It's called, I don't know the name in German, but in French it's called La Réserve Suisse. That's an organism that's based in Bern that centralizes the reserves for primary food in case of something bad happens. So
like catastrophe planning for food, basic
exactly,
foods.
there's a planning. So big companies like Migros, Coop, and all these big ones, they have to have in their stock a quantity that's determined by the Réserve Suisse. That's in case of there's no more transport and we cannot buy any more food anywhere else. So they have some wheat, oils, and this kind of basic food. So as I don't have the big quantities that they ask, I have to pay a tax for it too. So everything adds.
Yeah.
So as I always said, breathing fresh air costs money in Switzerland.
Exactly. And it's just, when I started, I had to ask for a permit to import olive oil. It's okay. I do it. But then with this permit, then you get a number. When every time you make an import, your number is registered. And then a week later, you receive an invoice from Réserve Suisse. Saying, okay, now you have to pay us this amount just because we are dealing with this reserve of food, which it can be very good. Some do not know how future will come, what situation we will face. But yeah, it's some things that we add to the prices in Switzerland. And yeah, so mostly this is an important part is the product itself, then transport, then duties, taxes, Réserve Suisse, and then the margin that retailers have in the product or not.
So is there any basic quality differences between cheaper olive oil, or is it just that those manufacturers are big enough that they can keep their costs low because they have a lot, basically just from a volume point of view, and the more expensive olive oils are from smaller manufacturers that really need to pass those costs on to the end user?
No, not necessarily. The thing is that in France recently there have been a lot of how do you call that, research about the frauds that happen with olive oil. And it's really scary because the simple thing is that you have bad olive oil and you cut it with good olive oil and then you sell it as an average olive oil and that's it, and the client doesn't know what's going on there. Then there are other things even worse happening with that. This is why I always say that it's very important to know where you buy the olive oil. In the bottles that we find in the big supermarkets, you find olive oil from Greece, olive oil from Italy, olive oil from Spain. But where in Greece, where in Italy, where in Spain? Because it's very big. These are big countries. And then when they don't say the producer with the name and the address, that's a blend. It's just a blend that they assembled just because it's like that, it's just, and then perhaps you say, you read olive oil bottled in Italy. Yeah, but where is the origin of this olive oil? You never know. Sometimes you find in the bottle that written olive oil from European community or and outside from Europe, and you say, but where? Where in the world?
I mean, the more hands it passes, the more chance it's cut with cheap oil like sunflower oil or grapeseed oil and things like that.
So this is another fraud that they do, but normally what it's the basic fraud is, it's not even a fraud, but it's just like, I have this olive oil that's from 2 years ago. I'm going to mix it with this other one and let's sell it, and that's it.
Yeah.
So for me,
for the olive oil that's 2 years old, and this maybe goes to the question I just wrote down, was like, is it bad because it's kind of oxidized because it's been out longer, or what makes the olive oil not like the different grades of olive oil? So the cheap olive oil or not premium, to me, I feel like it's kind of like gasoline, like there's some kind of rating or something, but I just don't understand what that is.
Olive oil, we say olive oil just like that because it's olive oil, but many years ago they established a new way to talk about olive oil, because from the olives you can extract many products and they're all very different. So when normally we are told the best is extra virgin olive oil, and it's okay. Yeah, it's true. That's true. So
I've heard that 100,000 times.
But what is it? Extra virgin olive oil. So the word virgin, it means that this oil, it has been extracted from olives by mechanic procedures. So meaning the olives have been grinded, mixed, past the centrifugation, and filtered. That's it. Normally, it cannot pass the temperature of 27 degrees, because after 27 degrees, the olive oil starts losing the aromas and all the flavors. So all the procedure is controlled with I don't know how it's called, but the things that control the temperature is always under 27 degrees.
Okay.
And this is a virgin olive oil. But from a virgin olive oil, we can have 3 different qualities. Extra virgin olive oil. This means that there's a guy that when the olive oil is produced, they taste it, and at that moment they know if it's extra or not. And the difference between extra and a virgin olive oil is that extra has no defaults. That it's a perfect olive oil with perfect flavor and everything like tip top.
So temperature, flavor, quality.
No, this is related to mistakes that can happen in the production of the olive oil. For example, if you pick up the olives from the floor, they are dirty or moldy. For example, if the olives, when they arrive to the mill, they are not treated right away and they are stuck, they can ferment. If the water and the oil are too long together and they don't separate it quickly enough, it can get vinegary.
Yeah.
And there are many defects that can happen during the production. So if there's a small defect, then it means that the olive oil is virgin, but it's not extra.
Okay. So it doesn't go to waste. It just basically is not as high of
it's
a quality.
extra. It's good for human consumption. It has a small defect, but it's still okay. If there are many people that they are not able to recognize it, and they use it, and it's okay. Many restaurants, they use it for cooking.
Yeah.
The ones, because it's not bad quality, but it's not the best.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the very bad quality where the things were all wrong. And there's an olive oil that's called lampante that's not used for human consumption because it's out of the limits that the European Council of all these things of the olive oil they plan. So this olive oil is now we get to the interesting point. What do they do with this olive oil? They cannot throw it away because there are many liters of this olive oil produced. What happens? They pass a refining process, but refining, it doesn't mean anything good. No. It means that this olive oil is it passes up chemical procedures. It passes under they heat it up, they add solvents, and they add things just to get rid of the flavors and the bad colors that this faulty olive oil has. Mm-hmm. Then what do they do when they have an insipid fat? They say, okay, add 15% of virgin olive oil. Mm-hmm. Then this is what you find on the shelf of the supermarkets as cooking olive oil.
That's terrible.
It's gross. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
I'm so glad.
So that's the light cooking oil, the one
exactly.
that says we can go up to a higher temperature and stuff like that.
Exactly. And why it does accept higher temperatures? Because this olive oil has been processed, and then as they take away all the omegas and it's just really a fat, then you can heat it up.
So just to clarify to our listeners, okay, because I know that probably a good 70% of people use this olive oil because as it promises on the package, you can cook with it. So people are like, oh, this is an olive oil I can cook with. And they don't think or know, we didn't even know, right, at that much detail. So basically they're taking olive oil that should not be consumed for eating. They manipulate it in a way where it then is okay to eat, but not really. They add some extra virgin olive oil and they go, here, guys,
just virgin olive oil, not even extra virgin.
Oh, it's just a virgin olive oil.
And just a 15%.
Yeah.
15%.
So a drop, really. Yeah, it is nothing.
To get some flavor.
Wow.
Okay.
And then this is what people who say, just for cooking, I don't buy the good one. I just use this one. But people, think about it, please. Cooking is what you do all day long, and you eat that. So please use the good olive oil for cooking.
Yes.
The Mediterranean countries, we've been using the olive oil during forever.
Yeah.
And we're still alive. So it's, and people are worried, like, can I heat it up?
Yeah.
Yes, you can heat it up. You cannot burn it.
You don't want to burn any fat, right? So
exactly.
This is something that people just really need to understand, is that it's not just olive oil. Every single fat that we're using, every single oil or fat that we're using will have a certain smoking point, and we don't want to reach that smoking point. And because extra virgin olive oil is pure, right? It will, the heating that you want to reach is not as high as, for example, I'm going to give a bad example, but like sunflower oil. But sunflower oil is pretty much equivalent to the cooking olive oil that you just mentioned now, because it's just highly processed, very inflammatory, not for human consumption, if you ask me. So we're talking about this beautiful product, olives, right? Great snack, great fat to eat, great everything. I mean, really, if you can snack on olives, you will be healthier and You'll probably enjoy it. Keep the pit in because it's much more delicious. And then they take that, they process it in a certain way where the best quality would be extra virgin olive oil. Then we have virgin olive oil, and the rest, please don't eat. That's all we're saying here. Am I right?
I think that's pretty much the good information we should pass today. You know, when we're talking about seeds oil, like you said, the sunflower, you know, not all the sunflower sunflower oil that we find is virgin. The sunflower oil, we can heat it up because it passes the same procedures than refining olive oil. So it means that they take away the color, they take away the fat, they take away the color, they take away all the omegas and all the vitamins and things that it has, and then it keeps like a very lightly colored fat that, yeah, sure, you can heat it up, but it doesn't bring anything to our diet.
Vice versa, actually. It's highly inflammatory and it's just not good for us, point blank.
So I don't know if you could answer this question, but because you're in the oil industry, maybe you can. So is there a reference somewhere, or so is there a type of oil that can go to a higher level for, I mean, is there any natural, you have to cut all this out. Blah, 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 blah. Okay.
I will not. Go on.
Is there any oil that people can fry with at a high heat that has not passed through these processes? Is there any natural oils that allow you to go that high temperature? Or is that just like out of the realm of nature and we have pushed nature to the point where we can fry shit?
You know,
no, it exists. It's just very expensive.
Well, what?
Ghee.
Ghee.
Yeah, but that's not oil, that's butter.
No, I'm talking about clarified butter. It's just a fat.
Yeah, I'm not talking about animal products. I'm talking about all the plant-based oils that we have, because that's usually what people are cooking with, are plant-based oils.
So again, avocado oil can reach quite high heat.
I'm asking I'm asking our expert, please.
No, but I'm interested also to know, because, you know, I just cook with olive oil and I never fry it.
Okay, I probably should have expected that response. Like, okay, no, Megan, I don't care about other oils.
With olive oil, I do everything, because you can heat up olive oil up to 180. And of course, it's not going to be like fresh extra virgin olive oil. It's a product that you heat up, but up to 180, it doesn't burn, it doesn't smoke. You can still use it. You know, I cook everything. I make cakes with olive oil. I make bechamel with olive oil. I make everything with olive oil, and it works. And even you can cut 20% of the quantity of olive oil instead of butter. So it's also a win-win situation, because for me it's the oil
I don't know, because I struggle with the flavor of olive oil in certain things. For example, homemade mayonnaise. If you use olive oil, mayonnaise, yeah. When you make homemade mayonnaise with olive oil, it tastes like shit from my point of view, because it has such a strong olive oil flavor. I don't want the olive oil flavor. I want the clean flavor of egg and mustard and vinegar. Right? I just need the fat to emulsify it.
What olive oil are you using for?
I use olive oil every day for sauteing. This is what I put in the pan. I have a bottle of olive oil and I use it when I'm sauteing everything. But I'm talking about like certain things, because olive oil has such a strong flavor.
Not all of them. Not for every, do you know how many olives varieties there are in the world? Yeah, almost 2,000. And when I organize olive oil tastings, yesterday night I was at olive oil tasting, and I made them taste from the most delicate olive oil to the strongest. And they were amazed to see like, and all of this is olive oil, yes. And one is more, has more flavors,
Aromatic,
and
yeah.
one is not so much, and one is bitter, and the other one is pungent, and the other one is not, it's almost not bitter or pungent. So, you know, it's also to know which olive oil you're using for.
But how can I tell? How can I tell this from the label on a bottle? Because all of the bottles are dark green because of light. You know, you don't want the sunlight touching it. So other than just buying all the different varieties and tasting them at home, which is one of the questions I have here, is really maybe you could tell us how to taste properly, because I think a lot of people kind of seen tastings for wine tasting. We kind of have an idea how to taste wine, but maybe in a minute you could tell us how to actually taste it. But I think that's where I'm struggling, because I would love to use olive oil for everything. Avocado oil is also super expensive, but olive oil, but it seems to me that I'm always picking the more strong flavor or whatever, I guess.
You know, the thing is that in the supermarkets, we have the bottles of olive oil that miss a lot of information. You know, when you ask a wine expert, would you buy a bottle of wine where it just says Italian wine? Say, no, there's no way. I need to know who produced it, what was the year of the harvest, which is the mix or coupage of the different wines, or, you know, the grapes, and they need to know a lot of information. And we are blindly buying olive oil from the shelves. And for me, it's very important to know the year of the harvest, because, you know, if it's a new olive oil or if it's an old one, you know, olives, they produce every year. So it's normal that you use the olive oil from the year. When you start having olive oils that have 1, 2, 3, then the good properties of the olive oil, they disappear. You know, polyphenols in olive oil, they start to decrease from the 7th month after the harvest or the olive oil production. So, you know, you produce olive oil in month of December, early December, and November, early December. Then month of June, July, you know, this olive oil is not bad, but you know that polyphenols are slightly going down, going down, going down. And that's not, you know, it's good. You can still take that olive oil because it's really very nice, but you know, it's just a chemical thing that, you know, that you can see that it gets to an end. So normally olive oils, the olive oils that I'm selling, they have a caducity of 1.5 years, because this is what it's recommended. The bad thing with the blends that we find is that we never know which blend. We don't know where it's produced. We don't know the acidity of this olive oil. Acidity is not anything that man can taste. This is just a chemical parameter that defines the free fatty acids that are in the oil. So the higher the acidity is that this olive oil is more, it's older, or, you know, it loses properties. So we need to know acidity. We need to know a lot of things that they are not on the bottles that we find in the supermarket. We don't know. Olive oil from Greece. Yeah, but what variety? You don't know if it's Koroneki or Manaki or, you know, nothing. And then this makes it very difficult for us to choose, because, for example, I'm bringing a very soft flavored olive oil. That's the one that Anna is using. That's variety. It's called Arbequina. And this variety is well known for being very soft and very light flavor. But, you know, there are other olive oils like a variety that's called Picual, that's bitter, pungent, and has a lot of character. But, you know, you have to, you know, I'm not going to cook with a Picual olive oil, but I will use it to season a salad because it has plenty of flavors that I really like. So these are informations that we don't have when we buy at the supermarket, and it's really a shame, because I think we don't know enough about a product that we eat all the time.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a mystery, and I think that's the main problem is, like you said, we don't get enough information. And there's no one to talk to, right? When you're going to the supermarket, what are you going to do? Call Alnatura and ask them about their oil? Like, they don't even know. That's exactly, there's too many people, too many hands are touching that product on the way. Whereas working with someone like you, ordering from someone like you go to these places, you know who is picking the olives, who's producing the olive oil, you're bringing it to Switzerland, you know the qualities, and any question can come to you and you will have that answer. Which is why I appreciate ordering your delicious olive oil. I know that there is, how should I even question that? I know that there is like the level of, it's not bitterness, it's like spiciness of
Pungency.
olive oil. Tell me again.
That's we call it pungency.
Pungency, right? So sometimes you'll taste olive oil. I love tasting olive oil. You taste it and then you feel this like pepperiness, right? Like burning at the back of the throat. And I heard someone tell me that the spicier it is, or the more pungent it is, the healthier, or the more health benefits. Is that correct?
There are two things. If you take a spoon of olive oil, you put it in your mouth and you just swallow it, it's going to make you cough, and you're going to feel it very spicy and very pungent, and you will say, oh, you're coughing, and it's horrible. So when I teach people, when we make tastings, I always tell them, put the olive oil in your mouth and then mix it very well in your mouth, because then you allow your papilla. How do you call that?
Palate. I think it's the palate you're talking. Like the taste
or taste buds.
The taste buds, exactly. Yeah. You allow your taste buds to feel all the flavors, and then when the olive oil is mixed with your saliva, then you swallow it, and then you don't cough. So one side there is this. Then the other side of about healthy, it goes in the good direction. You know, the more polyphenols one olive oil has, the more bitter and pungent.
Okay, so it does. So there is some truth to it,
exactly.
Right? Because we want it to be higher in polyphenols.
Exactly. Polyphenols are quite a good thing, but it makes that olive oil gets more difficult in, when you taste it. You know, not everyone can have a spoon of a very high in polyphenols olive oil, because it's too bitter and it's too pungent. So there are olive oils that you use, for example, as I use Arbequina variety for cooking. But then I have a bottle of very special olive oil. You know, all olives, when they ripen, they got black. They get black. These olives, when they ripen, they are white. And it's a variety that it's well known from the Romans time. And the Romans at that time, they were taking this olive oil because they were thinking that white was purity, a sign of purity. And they were not so wrong, because when they made chemical tests on that olive oils, they realized that the polyphenol level was very high. So I use an olive oil for cooking. Then in the morning, I take my spoon of very high polyphenol olive oil. And then depending on what I'm eating, I add one or another. So perhaps how many bottles do I have now on my shelf? It's for cooking, and perhaps 3 or 4. So like 4 or 5 olive oils in my kitchen right now, depending for what am I using them.
Yeah.
Could you explain what polyphenols, like why are polyphenols good for us? Or what are they doing internally? And also along like there was a craze a couple of years ago about putting olive oil in your skin and in your hair. So maybe then you could also touch on the external benefits of olive oil, or if there is any.
I think Danna can talk about why polyphenols are good, but I just tell you one thing: if a
She's
drop
going to
of
yell at me if I tell her.
No.
You know, when I use
I'm never
olive
gonna
oil-
live that down. I'm never gonna live that down.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh. You know, when there's a drop of olive oil that just falls on my whatever, a dish or something, I just take it and I rub it on my hands because it's full of vitamin A and E. So it's just so good. And then I have my hands, it's like, wow, so nice. I did use it sometimes for the hair, but then I smell all day long like a salad and I don't like it so much. But olive oil, it's great for the skin. And yeah, I would really appreciate to know more why polyphenols are good for our health. So Danna, please tell me.
Yeah. So as far as I know, they basically, they protect us from oxidative stress, right? So, we're talking about like cancers and things like that. So it's to really simplify it is basically to say, this will help you to hopefully avoid cancer in a way, right? But it's also really healthy for a heart, for arteries, for just, against inflammation and things like that. Is that okay, Megan?
Sure. Yeah. Because I honestly, I get sometimes very confused when it comes down to these things. Not confused. Maybe I just don't study it as much as I have too many things that I like to think about. But no, I mean, it makes sense. So your polyphenols are from an oxidative stress, which actually makes sense if it helps with probably free radicals, right? Because free radicals are produced when we have oxidative stress. And so,
right.
And as far as I understand, if I could connect all the dots, is the longer the olive oil is open, because it's exposed to air, right? Because you don't want the olive oil exposed to air. And that's basically what it's doing in the body, right? So when it's being exposed to air just as itself, as an olive oil, like not in the body, it's basically doing the same thing. It's taking the oxygen and sometimes manipulating it, and then it therefore basically using up its potential. So if you take it in the most freshest form with all those polyphenols in your body, the oxidative stress, the free radicals that are formed, which cause all kinds of inflammation and stuff in the body, those polyphenols then do the same thing, but in the body. And that's why you want the more potent versions of the polyphenols. I think I understood all of that.
The thing is not only the air that damages oil. Oil gets damaged with the air, with the light, with the time, and with the heat.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get very good olive oil, but you just put it next to your stove while you're cooking, it will get damaged very easily. If you just have a very big bottle and then you have just a little bit of oil, it's full of air, then it helps oxidation. And then if you have a very, very, very good olive oil, but you have that bottle in 5 years, never going to be good enough, because it already happened a natural oxidation from the product. So it's all these 4 elements that damage olive oil. And yes, it's quite good to know what's the date of the harvest, because then you know that what you are taking is really fresh olive oil from the year.
So
and just something to add, Megan, because you were talking about free radicals. When we cook fats or oils in too high of a heat, they turn into free radicals. So we're taking something that's actually going to help us against the free radicals, and we're turning it into free radicals as well. And that's why it's important not to go over a certain heat.
Right. But that's what I was just going to ask, because you mentioned that we shouldn't go over 180 degrees Celsius. By the way, we're talking in Celsius and metric terms on this podcast because we're all in Europe. So Americans,
because it just makes sense.
But the question I have, and you just said this, Donna, like, oh, you don't saute anything anymore. You cover all with olive oil and put it in the oven. But when I roast,
no, not saute. I don't fry.
Well,
I
I don't
saute
fry
all the time
either. Yeah, but that's what I thought you meant. You did.
No.
Okay. I don't fry either. I don't have a fryer. I don't fry.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah.
what I mean. So
No, I
like
saute.
schnitzel, right? I just put it, I literally made schnitzel yesterday
Mhm.
and it's delicious, by the way. I'm happy to share the recipe. And it's, and I put some ghee on the thing and then I've drizzled it with some olive oil on top and I popped it in the oven.
But this is my question, because most of my recipes, when I roast vegetables, they say to roast it around 200 degrees Celsius. But if my olive oil is only supposed to go up to 180, I shouldn't be using olive oil to roast my vegetables, because then it's already going above 180. So then
And you can drizzle it afterwards. That's what I do when I want that flavor. Or the positive, you know, like the positive effect of the olive oil. We don't only have to use it while cooking. You can use a fat that can take higher heat and then drizzle, like taking even like steamed veggies. Steamed veggies are okay. You know, you're lying to yourself if you think they're super delicious, but whatever, to each their own. But if you steam vegetables and then drizzle some gorgeous olive oil on top when it's out, or butter or whatever it may be.
And you know, one thing that we don't think about, in one of my tastings, I met a chemist, and I just had the chance to ask her for some doubts. And the thing that we have to understand is that the molecule of olive oil is too big to enter in the food we're cooking. So what it makes it, when we saute or we put the vegetables in the oven, it makes a coat around and it protects the vegetable or anything you're cooking from the heat. So it cooks the food, it gives us a good flavor, and it protects it from getting burned. So why do you have to make them at 200? You can cook at 800, 180, and it's still okay.
Okay.
It's
cool. I have, so I don't know when we're going to air this, probably after I go to Italy. So future me, feel free to hop in here. But I'm going to go to Italy in a couple of weeks with a friend of mine. We're going to Tuscany for a ceramics class week, where we're for a whole week just making ceramics in beautiful Tuscany. And part of our trip is to go to to buy local olive oil there. And I bought a couple of years ago olive oil in Tuscany, and we brought it home. We immediately transferred it out of the metal tin can that they gave it to us. And my husband brews beer, so we got sterilized beer bottles that have the right glass. He bottled everything so we would limit the amount of oxygen, and it was great. We had that for quite some time. My question, now that I've had this, we're interviewing this for you, it's perfect timing, by the way. When I go to a local olive oil producer, a farm, what should I be looking for in terms of, like, are there certain questions I should ask the farmer? Or I guess I'm just looking for advice when you're buying really local. Like, how can I be an informed local consumer of olive oil?
So, for example, when you go to Tuscany, you're not going to find one olive, one monovarietal olive oil. You're going to have, there's always mostly a blend of 3 varieties over there. It's not that they blend 3 varieties, it's that the fields are with the olive trees with different varieties, and they don't have the time to separate the olives from the different varieties. Then the things that you have to ask is, when did you harvest the olives, and when did you produce the olive oil? And then normally all this information should be on the can that you're going to buy, so it should be okay. But well, it's not that I'm not I have full trust in farmers, because they are very proud of their product. So they try to sell us always the best quality. But for example, if you go to a supermarket, it can happen that once you buy a bottle that says extra virgin, it's not extra virgin. This, you should know that. And then when I think you should ask the farmer to let you taste the oil. And then it should taste good. You know, sometimes people say, it tastes to olive oil. Yeah, but you know, olive oil tastes to tomato branch, to fresh grass, to a lot of things that are fresh, like tomato, depending if the olive oil is from early harvest and then the olives are more green, or the latest harvest. Then there are different flavors, but you know, it always has to smell like something like wow. That it's something very natural and very fresh. If the smell is like old nuts, then it's not
rancid stuff. Yeah, it's not.
Then it's rancid. Then if you smell, because you know, you can, if you smell and it smells a little vinegary, it's not good.
Okay.
Smell it and the smell is like, oh my God, what's that? Then avoid to buy that olive oil, because you know, as I tell you, olive oil it's a product from the nature, and it has to smell good and fresh.
Yeah. Do we have to worry about any kind of pesticides, because this is a tree-based product? And is that something that normally comes up when you're like with your producers or in general?
My producers, every year when they make their harvest, I ask them for the analysis. I have producers that produce IP, say, I don't know if in English is production intégrée. That means that they can use some products to treat, but not any products, and not whenever. It's very controlled. And I have producers that produce ecologic, or here it's bio, but it's another kind of requirements. I have producers that they produce conventional oil, but they say, you know, I never treat it. Just if I have the flies, the olive oil, the olive fly, then they treat it. And I ask them all the time for the results. And I can tell you that for now, I never got a result with pesticides on the list. And you know, there's not 3 or 4 things that they test. It's just like a huge list like that. So for conventional olive oil, for ecological olive oil, I'm always having good results from my producers, which makes me really very happy, because this means that the olive oil that's treated as ecologic, it's very well done, but also that the other oils that are not produced as ecologic, they are also very well done, because the treatments that they do not pass to the olives. And then for me, it's really what it counts, because not everyone has the capacity to pay ecological olive oil. Not everyone wants it, because I have clients tell me, no, I'm not interested. It's okay. And there are people that they just want ecologic, and it's everything is legit. Everyone can buy whatever, but as I said before, I like to sleep well at night. And this is why I check all the results and I say, okay, I'm happy to sell these olive oils because I know that they are good. I'm not selling crap quality. So for me, that's the most important.
Yeah, that's cool. I think to explain a little bit more for our American, because we use different terminology over here. So in North America, it would be called organic or certified organic. And so I think what you're saying is that not all the some producers may actually process or or grow in an organic or ecological or bio, whatever the word is for whatever language you're using, fashion, but not everybody is paying for this kind of certification, because I know that that's also something in the US where there's local farmers markets and they just cannot afford to pay to have these things certified, but they practice this, but they just don't have the certificate that says it. So yeah, just for our listeners, that's kind of what she was just talking about, organic or certified organic.
Yeah, because
process.
in Spain it's called ecologic, in Italy I think too, and then in Switzerland they call it bio, but it doesn't feel the same requirements here and there, so it's quite different. It's the same but different, and
Right.
just, this is why. But yeah, the most important thing when you buy olive oil for me, just taste it and ask for harvest and ask a lot of questions, because the more you ask, the more information you're going to get. And another thing that's really very important, you're going to Tuscany, you're going to transport your oil, and then are you going by car?
Yeah, no, we will stop and declare.
No, it's not for this,
No?
declare or not.
Oh,
Sorry, that's not my business. You can bring into Switzerland 5 liters of oil per person.
Nice.
Okay. Oh, that's good to know. Thank you. That was also something on my list.
If you bring more than, I think it's 20, then you have to have the permit that I have. But if not, you're
20 per person.
20
liters, yeah.
per person, I think so.
Right. Okay.
But but this was not really my concern. My concern is that you are traveling with a car, and at the car, in the trunk, it heats up very much, and you're going to stop to eat, and the car will stay under the sun, and then your precious olive oil is going to heat up in a tin that it heats up even more. So just be careful with that.
That's a good point. I do. So the car I have doesn't have a trunk. I have a Jeep. So everything is air conditioned inside. So if we have the air conditioning on, this is good. But it is a good point. And we plan to buy the olive oil at the very end of the trip. And then we only have one overnight on the way back. And what we'll do is we'll bring the olive oil into the Airbnb where we stay. So, but it's good. I will make a mental note to treat it like a child or a dog and not leave it in the car.
Exactly. And not only this, just that when you put it in your car, be sure that it's not going to get the direct
sunlight.
Okay. Because sunlight, it heats up, and metal heats up very quickly.
Yeah.
And it can go up very quickly to temperatures that will make that your olive oil is not that good.
Okay.
So this actually brings me to the next question, because how do you manage to avoid such a thing when you are importing the oil?
Because that's a good question. I did make my last import before summer. What was that? June? Beginning of June. It was not that hot.
Could be, yeah.
And I'm not going to make the next one until certainly mid or end of September.
Oh, wow.
I'm avoiding summer.
Got it. So I need to order my next batch quickly, huh? Before you run out.
No, I import a nice amount of olive oil that my clients can have whatever they need. But yeah, sure. I try to, and then I also avoid Christmas time because it's more difficult. So I have to really be thinking very well what I need, when I need it, and but.
So your past career in logistics is the key to your enterprise.
Yeah, I'm quite happy because I could mix the two, the business, the job that I was doing well. But I was at that moment I was just organizing transfer for windmills and huge things, so it's a bit different. But yeah, and I'm also mixing the knowledge, for a very precious product, and I'm also liking very much sharing and, making everyone a bit more knowledgeable about this, because I think, it's very important to know what we eat, because we are what we eat, and we cannot just use crap olive oil when we're cooking, because we're going to eat that.
Yep. Every cell of our body is getting that information. So how long would you recommend, or what's the maximum length of time that you would recommend keeping a closed olive oil bottle? Like if someone has a bottle that they brought from Italy and they're keeping it for special occasion and it's been in their cupboard for like a year.
Look, I always think that you don't have to keep things for a good occasion. You have to enjoy life at the moment. That's
Agreed.
my way of living. But if you have such a precious olive oil, use it. Don't keep it. Just so good. Then the longer you store it, it's not going to get any better. Olive oil is not like wine. So just like use it, and when it's finished, take the chance to buy again, and that's it. But use it at the right time. I would say not more than 2 years, but 2 years,
It's already too much. Yeah.
1 year and a half. It happened to me to go to test. A friend told me, I have this olive oil since I don't know how long, and then I did taste that. And I told her, this olive oil, it needs just 5 more minutes and it will get rancid. So just like use it right away, but don't use it on salad. Just cook it and get rid of it as soon as possible.
You were too kind to tell her to just throw it away, right? Yeah.
Does the advice that you just gave, I mean, that's obviously for consumption, and also I think it's the same applying for like the external uses, but what about soap making? If you have some old olive oil and you want to do like traditional soap making where you use a sodium ash lye solution with olive oil, is there any kind of advice, or does
I'm not an expert of soap making, but I have a friend of mine who she is. And I have to tell you that she buys the organic olive oil to make her soaps, her solid shampoo and everything. I use it and it's wonderful. And I think that if I would ever tell her use this rancid olive oil, she would just like not be my friend anymore. So of course you can use bad olive oil to make soap, and then you wash whatever you have to clean, and but it would not be a soap that I would use for my skin. Again, because perhaps it's because I am, I don't know, too narrow-minded, but for my body I want the best.
Yeah. See, I know that you know this, Elia. I make our hand soap at home, right? So some would say I'm bored, but once every few months, I just sit there and I make a huge amount, and it's just honey, soap, and olive oil and essential oils. And I was always too cheap to use her oil because I'm like, this is so delicious. So I buy the best, right, with air quotations, the best olive oil that I can find in the shop, which is like the Al Natura organic, And one day I was ready to make the hand soaps, and all I could find in the cupboard was your oil. And I was like, oh no, I don't want to waste it. I want to eat this. I don't want to waste it. And I ended up making it because everything was already like half mixed. I couldn't wait, and I didn't want to go to the shop. And I have to tell you, like the quality of my hand soap, it was unreal what a difference it made. It was like this really thick, really leathery, and I mean, just a feeling on your skin. It was incredible. So I think it really does make a difference also externally. Like you feel it. You just plain feel it. So that's my kind of experience. I've never made bars, like soap bars. It's always like the liquid stuff. But yeah.
Okay, so a couple things here. We're going to have to remember to add to the show notes Danna's hand soap recipe. We're going to have to get Elia's friend's soap shop to make sure we link that into because
I don't
I
think
want
People will
it.
ask.
I
don't
want
think
it.
it's possible. I don't know what are the rules all over Switzerland, but here in Canton de Vaud, you cannot sell handmade soaps if you don't have a recipe that's approved, and to approve a recipe it costs like a kidney, so she doesn't she just make it for friends and small markets in the village. It's really a shame because she makes amazing things, but to approve a recipe it's just too expensive.
That's a shame. But it's good. It's good that there are regulations about this, because I feel like that is something we looked into doing some soap stuff with a friend, and we were like, okay, what do we have to do in terms of regulations, because it's cosmetic, or right? So on one hand, it's a shame that small distributors, small homemade people can't afford to go into the market to do this. But on the other hand, there is a reason why they regulate this, and I think that regulation is Switzerland's middle name. And to be fair, not too many cases of food poisoning in Switzerland, and everything's pretty clean and regulated. So yeah, it's a double-edged sword. Then you just have to be friends with the right people, I guess.
Exactly.
So that brings me to kind of my last question is, for you, do you only ship within Switzerland, or do you ship internationally, or how do you distribute then your olive oil?
I sell my olive oil online, and I distribute it all over Switzerland. I just sent in Switzerland because as Switzerland has this, I have to import the olive oil here. It doesn't make any sense to send it
export
back
again.
to export it again. So I just send it locally all over Switzerland. I make sendings with a private transport company, and the deliveries are normally 48 hours.
Okay. So then I think for people who are listening to the show that are not in Switzerland, the takeaway, and we've had other guests as well where they didn't ship outside of Switzerland, but I think the conversation we had is still beneficial. I think in the end, if you're outside Switzerland, try to find a local provider, someone like Elia, who is doing this kind of work. And so the main takeaways are, you should know when it was grown, like when the olive oil was produced, and kind of where it was at. And I think those are my big three takeaways. Like, I'm never going to buy an olive oil bottle again where it just says product of Italy. So I think that everybody can use that information regardless of where they are in the world and where they're listening. But, I think eating local and supporting local providers, and I haven't looked at I haven't bought any of your olive oil yet, but now I will. And if I'm ever in Lausanne or near you, maybe we even make a trip, because you do olive oil tastings, kind of like wine tastings. I think that also sounds very interesting for me.
Yeah, I organize olive oil tastings in person, but I also do it online. So I send you a box with all the things you need, and we do it online. So.
Oh, nice. Cool.
We should do that. I want to do that.
Oh, come to Lausanne, then we
could have a live show where we set everything up and do a live.
You don't have to argue with me. Okay, I'm happy
making
to
the
do
notes.
that.
I'm making the notes right now. Live show, Lausanne.
And make a note for me to also order more oil quickly. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Elia. Wait. Elia.
You said it well.
I said it right.
You both. It was really nice talking with you, because you never know how it will happen, but it was easy. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for all the information. I think that, for those who are in Switzerland, I personally can highly recommend ordering your oils. You know how much I love you. I stock them and I ask for big bottles, and we go through them like water. And there are other products on on your web shop. So, the tapenade, it was just ridiculous good, and the nuts and just everything. So go through it, enjoy, and let Elia know how delicious her oil is. Thanks so much.
Thanks to you.
Hey, you're still listening. Great. Okay, now I can tell you about my 12-week goal setting session. So in this 1-hour session, I'm going to help guide you through a powerful process inspired by the best-selling book, The 12-Week Year. I know. Everybody at this time of the year starts to think about year-long goals. And I would argue that year-long goals are really hard to contextualize. What is going to be happening in a year from now? You have no idea. But 12 weeks gives you a little bit better understanding because you kind of already have your calendar booked out for the next 12 weeks, kind of know what's going to be going on. So if you can focus your goals on the next 12 weeks, you can make some really big actionable steps towards your long-term vision. So in this 1-hour session, we do talk about long-term vision. We talk about where you want to be. We talk about what your 5-year, 10-year, 3-year, all those goals are. But that's only a brief part. We know we see the long distance view, but let's break that down. And then we get into the 1 to 3 strategic 12-week goals that are going to get you to those long-term vision. Then we're going to put that into a really cool action plan with like checklists and timing and all that jazz to make sure that you are clear and that you have accountability to get those goals done. And then that's not it. Then we are going to tackle your roadblocks because you have roadblocks. So we're going to tackle those roadblocks. We're going to create a plan to overcome them. So when you start to self-sabotage, what you can do to get around those roadblocks. Okay, so if this is interesting for you, it is only 1 hour of your time and it's only 45 Swiss francs. I host this gig over on Fiverr, but I'm also going to put a link down in the show notes. So if you're interested, hit me up.